and that haven't been on the call before, but beyond the commission is all about what Chris will be talking about today, and that is vertical stacking. I had never heard that term before, but it's essentially taking your business and finding all the different ways to monetize it. And that's essentially what I've done over the course of the last 5 years is every time that a need came up, I added another something. So during COVID, I started flipping houses, and it was mainly for people that maybe lived away but wanted to sell their house and wanted to make more. That's where that all began. And then just as time went on, I've added more and more businesses and other ways to monetize my business rather than just commission because, I mean, it's a crazy market. We can't always rely on commission. It's kind of a roller coaster ride. So it's great if you can monetize in every way possible. And that's everything about what Beyond the Commission is about. And so today we have Chris Granger, who is the owner of Maison Title. He's a title attorney. He owns a lot of property. How many properties do you have right now?
So we're a little over 400.
Okay, so I was incorrect whenever I posted what I posted. He also is running a property management company. He has STRs. He has, I don't, you also have, I know you do some succession work and things like that. He has a lot going on, but he basically wanted to talk to us about vertical stacking and how he ended up doing all these things. So I'm very excited to hear from him today and all about how he got started. So, what is exactly vertical stacking? And did you coin that phrase? Where did it come from? How did you learn it?
Yeah, so I did not coin the phrase. I heard it in a podcast probably 4 or 5 years ago. They called it vertical integration. Vertical stacking made more sense to me, so I kind of use that nomenclature when I talk about it. But basically, it's just leveraging the systems and the processes and the businesses you already have. And figuring out how to integrate a different type of revenue stream or business into that system already. So simple example is I own rent houses, right? Well, some of those rent houses have grass to cut. So instead of hiring a third party grass company to cut them, I just formed my own grass company. And now my real estate investment company pays my grass company. And basically, I'm cycling the money kind of the same way all the way through. And I've increased jobs and increased revenue. So now that lawn company, it does mine essentially for free because I'm keeping the money in house, and it allows it to expand and go pick up other contracts. So it just created a new revenue stream. So that's like the most basic example of vertical stacking.
Okay. So, what are all the businesses that you have? And like how did you end up with all of these different types of businesses? I know they're all kind of interconnected, but where
Yep.
did it start and how did you end up where you are now?
So I knew that I always wanted to be in real estate, even like before I went to law school. So being a real estate attorney was kind of always going to be my focus when I got out of school. And so I got a job at a boutique real estate firm here in Lafayette, title company, and just kind of started learning, how to be a title attorney. Through being a title attorney, you meet a lot of people, realtors, lenders, buyers, sellers, other investors. And then I just started asking questions every chance I got. I just asked questions. How did you do this? Why did you do that? What was the benefit of that? What was the drawback of doing it that way? Just trying to learn. And then my wife and I, we bought our first house in Grand Coteau. Actually, before I became a lawyer, while I was still in law school, and that was our first homestead. And then we got pregnant and realized that house was very small. It was only like 800 square feet. And so when we bought our next home, instead of selling it, that became our first rental. And once I realized that I could rent it out for 800 bucks and my mortgage was only like $375, it was like, whoa, this is genius. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. But that was kind of the start of it.
So from there, you mentioned that you were doing some succession work and stuff like that inside of the title company. And so
Correct.
is that where you started to accumulate a bunch of your properties?
So yeah, so through succession work and then just through general like being a real estate attorney and connecting with clients, I started to make it known that I wanted to get into the game and I wanted to start buying rentals. And so Clients would come or sellers from a deal I had closed would come and say, "Hey, I have this house available. Are you interested?" Or through succession works, we do the succession, and the families would realize, "Hey, we don't want dad's, four rent houses in Opelousas. We would, are you interested in them, or can you help us find someone that's interested in them?" So even if I wasn't buying them, I was helping connect them with other investor clients. And so I kind of just built myself up to be the guy that kind of people came to in St. Andrew Parish to, when rent houses or older houses needed to be sold.
Yeah, I do feel like when it comes to title companies, you're definitely my go-to for investors and investment properties. Anything investment, I feel like you're the place to go. I feel like you're definitely the most well versed on that. So then how did you end up with 400 properties?
Yeah, so kind of a funny story. So my personality is like once I decide I want to do something, like it's I just do it. It's hard for me to stop. Like, and I have to go pedal to the metal full blast anytime I decide I want to do something. So once I decided that I wanted to get into the rental game, we went from that first house, lived in it for a couple years, bought our second house, and then made the first one a rental, realized the power of what that can be and the equity we had built up in it. And so I went from that one to about 15 and probably 7 or 8 months once we decided we wanted to get into the real estate game. And then that's when I started to learn that bankers have pain thresholds of how much they want to lend you and how fast they want to lend it to you. And so I then started trying to figure out the banking game. So every bank has a different lending policy. Every lender within every bank has a different lending policy and a paying threshold. So you start to figure out what lenders are more conservative, which ones are a little bit more liberal, what in what ways do bankers want deals presented to them to make them feel comfortable with it. And I learned all of that by getting told no a lot and being turned down by a lot of bankers and a lot of banks, some of which are now I borrowed millions of dollars with these bankers that originally told me no. And so it took me, after I got to about 15, it took me about a year to kind of figure it all out. And then I went from 15 to 40 that following year. And then the banks kind of paused me again, like, "Hey, you're growing really fast. We want to see you stabilize." And that went on for about 6 months. And then in I'd say probably 2019, kind of the floodgates opened for me, and all the banks kind of just, I guess I had proven that I could do it. And so we went from 40 to 400, and I think we're up to 434 now, between 2019 and 2024.
That's pretty impressive. So 5 years. And were a lot of those properties that were on the market, deals that wholesalers brought you? Where did all these houses come from?
So I bought from everyone. So I'd say probably 70% of my portfolio came just from private deals, just kind of becoming known as the guy that is interested in buying rent houses and people bringing them to me, whether that be clients, realtors, bankers even. If they had a client whose deals weren't working, bankers brought me their deals. Um, it very rarely that I buy anything like that I go seeking something on MLS. Just 'cause I didn't have to. My funnel, they kind of teach you want to build a funnel as wide as possible, have everything drop into it, and then you kind of sift through it to narrow it down into what fits your buy box. And my funnel got really big during those years. And so I was looking at 10 to 15 deals a day, trying to figure out which ones made sense, which ones didn't. I've gotten really close with a few wholesalers here in town, and then a few realtors that kind of became good friends. Knew that I was buying, and they would kind of bring a lot of stuff to me, but very, very, very few that I go seeking them on MLS just because I didn't need to.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And it's true because there are a lot of people that are trying to often, at least from my experience, I will see people that are trying to dump rental properties, and there's very few people that are actually trying to build a portfolio as big as yours, for sure. Mo- Excuse me. Most people are just doing a couple at a time, one, two, maybe 10, and they're slow about it. So they're only like, maybe once a month is probably the fastest that I've seen until I met you and Dustin, his
Yeah.
other investor buddy. And they really took it to another level, just buying at an insane rate. So in the beginning, were you using another property management company to help you with all of these?
Yeah, so at the very beginning, it was just kind of me managing it myself. I kind of make, my legal secretaries or my closers kind of help me along the way. But once we got to about 30 and 40, it just became too big to do like on our own. And so I then hired, a management company, a third party management company that's here in Acadiana. And I let them manage for about 6 months. And my processes did not line up with their processes, and so it just wasn't a good fit. And so at that point, I realized that my personality wasn't going to allow me to have a third party management company manage something that I had dumped hundreds of thousands of, almost millions of dollars, in investment into. I wasn't gonna, I couldn't just let someone else manage it. So at that point, I started building the systems to just manage my own properties. And so that included hiring a full-time general manager, some assistant property managers, full-time maintenance guys. And we just kind of built it up over the years. And so that has grown to almost 10 employees now in the real estate and management company side.
Gotcha. So what I guess so about what point, and I'm not surprised at all because I know you and I know your personality. So I'm not surprised that you wouldn't want anybody else, but I get it too, because not everybody else is gonna take care of your properties the way that you two do. And I find that especially in the long-term property management game, there's less there aren't great property managers, and especially when they have so many properties that they're not keeping an eye on them regularly. I just find that they're not doing a great job. The properties tend to get, run down, so I can totally see why somebody would want to do it themselves anyway. But using that to grow another business is really cool. And then I know that you guys are taking on some clients that are selected, but
Yeah.
I know that you guys also have a ton going on. Like, I don't even know how many houses you have right now that you're taking care of, but it seems a little insane to me.
Yeah, I mean, all total between what we own and what we manage for other people is probably about 600 single family residences.
Hmm.
And like, the property management thing was not by design. I did not go into a thing like I want to build a property management company for other people's properties. It was I need to be able to like understand and control and know that my investments are being taken care of the way that I want them taken care of. And so I built a team and systems to manage my portfolio. Well, then it got to the point where, people were seeing how we managed ours and were like, oh, manage mine. And that went on for a couple years. And then finally it was like, I've invested all of this time, effort, and money into building this team and system. Let's leverage it, vertically stack it, and manage other people's property, create a new revenue stream without adding any overhead, without adding any extra expense, without adding anything. It's already the team and system that's in place. Let me now leverage that to create a new revenue stream by managing other people's properties.
And I know that after you did the long-term management game, you decided to jump into the short-term rentals
Yeah.
game.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So how did that go for you when you
Yeah,
started
so
doing short-term?
not super great, to be honest. So what started it is I bought a building in downtown Lafayette. It's called the Jefferson. It used to be Jefferson Street Pub. That's how a lot of people know it. But I bought that building probably, I don't know, 3 years ago now. And downstairs is commercial space, restaurant, bar, and event center. Upstairs is 5 apartments. And so I thought like, oh, this is great. I'm gonna turn these 5 apartments into short-term rentals. Well, then that turned into, well, let me just try one at first. And then it was like, well, let me try two. And it quickly became something I did not like doing, did not want to do. It's very time intensive. It's very detail oriented. I'm a, what's the saying, a 30,000 foot overview kind of guy. Like I can see the big picture and I can know where I want to get something, but I need, like, I've hired people that help me get into like the finer details and narrowing down the vision. And that's probably my biggest strength is knowing where my weaknesses are. And then I feel like I've built really good teams and found really good leaders and put them in positions where they've really shined and grown.
Yeah. So
But
when you were
short-term rentals are
managing,
hard.
yeah, so I like them, but I understand people that can't and don't want to do that kind of thing. I mean, what was it like when you were managing it yourself? And was there anybody helping you whenever you were doing this? Because it seemed like you were kind of having to do this yourself, as busy as you are. I can't imagine.
Yeah, so first off, I think I severely underestimated the time and effort it would take to manage a short-term rental. In my mind, I was like, look, it's not a condo in Destin. It can't be that busy. There won't be that many calls, right? It'll just be a weekend thing. And that quickly proved incorrect. And it got really big really fast. And we were booked, a lot. And with a lot of bookings come a lot of calls, whether it's someone not even knowing how to put the key in the door to get in because the door won't work, or hey, they can't find the toilet paper. I mean, it was some of the silliest things, but if I'm checking into a hotel, those are all things that I expect to work, right? And that's people's mindset going into short-term rentals. So I was trying to do it by myself, and the best decision that I made was probably 4 months ago, turning it over to a short-term rental property management company.
Yeah.
Yep.
And why would you say that? How
Because I
has
don't
your
have anyone
life
calling
gotten
me about how to
better?
get in. I don't have anyone calling me about toilet paper. It's running a lot more effectively. My bookings have gone up tremendously. The ratings have gone up. It's really easy to get a 4-star review. It's really hard to get a 5-star review. And I think my 5-star reviews are probably up 300% than they were when I was managing it. Now that this management company has it. So everything about it is the right business decision for me. That's just so I tried to vertically stack that into my system. My system was not designed to handle short-term rentals, right? And so that's also kind of what you need to know about your vertical stacking is that it only works if it fits in organically into the ecosystem you've created. And short-term rentals just did not. We're a long-term rental management company, and the approach to it is completely different.
Yeah, and just so you guys know, he hired me 4 months ago to help him out because he was drowning a little bit, and I think that we've done a really good job of getting his rating ups. Getting, I know that you said prior to us working with you, you were even having a hard time getting the weekday bookings.
Oh, the
Uh,
weekday was nearly impossible.
yeah. So
Yeah.
now because of our systems and the way that we do our pricing strategy and our booking strategy, we're able to get him a lot longer term stays and during the week because weekends are easy. You can book a short-term rental on like the weekends are always full, especially in the downtown area. But it's the weekdays that are a lot harder and that takes some strategy and stuff like that. So and that is something that I'm teaching in the course that I'm starting on Thursday. And so, if anybody is interested in short term rental management, this is the one time that I'm going to teach it locally. After this, it'll probably only be outside of this area, only because of the saturation of the market. I don't want to oversaturate everything. Um, let's see, I'm trying to think if I have any questions. So about that specifically, I'm glad that I'm giving you some freedom though, and able to sleep more on the weekends instead of
Oh
having
yeah.
to worry about those things all the time. I guess is there anything, do you have a method, I guess, to all of the madness? Because this is a lot of different things that you are doing all at the same time. Is there, how do you manage it all? How do you divide your time? Is there something that you're doing to keep your sanity through all this?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, I think my biggest strength in business is my ability to build a team, and to identify talent and place them in the correct spots within the company. So all of my companies have a general manager. They have one person that's in charge of that company. So for Maison Title, it's Mariah. She's kind of the office manager, general manager. She runs Maison Title for me. Everyone, all the closers are underneath her. Obviously me and my law partner Daniel Goche and Justin Lange, we're the title attorneys. We review the title and do the legal work, but Mariah kind of really handles the day to day and the operations and the management of the employees. They only come to me when there's a problem or they don't know how to handle something. For Seven Oaks, which is the real estate investment company, and South Coast Property Group, which is the management company, I have a general manager named Casey Dugat, and so she runs both of those companies for me. She was the kind of the second property manager that I ever hired to work for me, and she just kind of she has an accounting background. That's how her mind works. She's really good at the finer details, where I'm not so great at the finer details. I'm really good at the big picture and telling you where I want to get to. Um, and so she runs all of those for me. And then, for each of my other smaller companies, they each have a GM that run the things for me. And then kind of it all kind of comes to a head to me. So I'm only dealing with the 4 or 5 general managers. I don't have to deal with the 30 something employees.
Definitely. I can't imagine having to manage 30 something employees. That would be very stressful in and of itself. That's a lot of
Yep.
babysitting.
It's a
So,
lot of pressure some months.
yeah. So basically, the moral of the story is hire great talent managers to run everything for you. So, in that event, what does your day today look like if you are essentially, well, obviously you're still a title attorney, like that's still your day
Yep.
job, I guess. What does
Yep.
your day look like having to manage at least the managers? Like what does every day look like for you?
Yeah, so it varies day to day. The first day of the week, so today's our Monday, right? And so the ATM company, Monday, the beginning of the week's always harder than the end of the week. The real estate company is always harder at the beginning of the week than the end of the week, just because you have all the problems that built up over Saturday or Sunday to come in and deal with. Um, I still have titles to review and closings to do today. So I still have a list of 4 or 5 titles that I need to review before the end of the day today. We have 3 closings today. And so Maison Title and my law firm kind of take precedent, and that's my first baby. That's what I have to do first. That's how I really feed my family. All the other companies just kind of build on themselves, and we kind of leave the money in them, and they just kind of snowball. So it's just kind of fitting all the other companies in between closings and title reviews and legal appointments.
Do you feel like you're pulled in multiple directions all the time? Like or I guess, does it, is it stressful not having one focus, or do you feel like you have mastered being able to have more than one focus?
Yeah, so at times it is stressful. Like there are times where there's fires in multiple places and you're kind of getting pulled to all of them. I feel like I've done a pretty decent job of being able to delegate and to know where my strengths are and my weaknesses are. And I feel like I'm really good about staying in my lane. Like I know what I do well. Everyone that works for me knows what I do well, but I also recognize what they do well. And so I'm not a micromanager. I'm not like someone that goes behind people to check. Either you will do your job or you won't, and we'll find someone else that will, right? It's a really simple process. um but yeah, there are some days, because I'm still a husband, I'm still a dad to 5 little boys. Like there's still a lot that goes on, but I've told people this for years. I don't do idle well. Like I can't sit still. That's not good for me mentally. I need to be moving. I need to be doing things, and I love moving and doing things. And so staying busy, like that's by choice. That's what I love to do. That's what fits my personality. And quite honestly, even though it's stressful, it's what keeps me sane. I feel like I would go crazy if I was just sitting idle.
I definitely understand and can very much relate to that.
Yep, yep.
That's probably why we get along very well.
Probably, yeah.
Um, do you have any checks and balances in place to make sure that everything is running properly? I know that even with me managing your short-term rentals, I know usually once a month you kind of ask me about the end of the month, you're asking me kind of for an update. What kind of checks and balances do you have in place, not just for the business itself, but also for personal? Like, I know that I have seen you say that you turned your phone off for the weekend because you had to. So tell
Right.
us how you are managing that, like checks and balances, making sure that everything's going okay, and your sanity as well in all of this.
Right. Yeah. So it's always been really important to me. Like, there's work time and then there's family time. Right. And so that's probably why short-term rentals didn't work into my ecosystem, because the weekends was family time. Right. And that's also like height of short-term rental management time. But So for checks and balances, we have weekly check-ins with each GM. We have a financial meeting with our CPA once a month. Like I check in with all of my third-party vendors. So like you, for instance, for the short-term rental management, hey, Teresa, what's it looking like? How's it going? Any issues? Kind of give me the lowdown, anything that I need to know. And then all of my vendors, just like you, are really good about coming to me when something big happens, right? You don't wait till that meeting. If something big happens, you just call me, we work through it, and then we move on. Um, I also think my ability to just kind of like, I don't know how to explain it, but like I'm not a grudge holder, whether that be personally or in business. It's like we see a problem, we solve a problem, we move on. We don't ever go back and talk about that problem. Like we don't hold on to the emotions of the problem. Because if I did, oh my God, I feel like I'd be so overwhelmed. So, that's like for the business checks and balances. And then like I drop my boys off to school at 7. I get to the office, and then I generally work, depending on what the days look like. I'm generally home by like 6 o'clock at the absolute latest. And then I take the weekends or family time. And so sticking to that, even though sometimes it's hard, has been really important, I think, to both my marriage, me as a husband and me as a father. I also think that, the best part about work is there's going to be some more tomorrow. So I'm never going to be done with my work. I'm never going to be caught up, and just accepting that fact and understanding that it's just like, this is the roller coaster I created. This is the grind that I wanted. And there's more work tomorrow, and then we'll get here tomorrow and we'll do it again.
Got it. Yeah. I was going to ask that if you ever actually finish a to-do list, because I can say with utmost certainty that I don't feel like there's ever an end to that list, no matter
Nope.
how much we would like for there to be an end. It doesn't matter if we think we're done, there's always something else that we can do. And I feel like that list just kind of never goes away. So, but yeah, I guess that's part of the balance is just being able to shut off and to have that time that's allocated for family. And it is what it is, like that's family time and everybody else can wait, which is really really important, especially when you have that much going on. We actually moved through all of this way faster than I anticipated. So if somebody was looking to get into vertical stacking, what kind of advice would you give them? Especially realtors is a little bit different, but I wanted everybody to have a different perspective on it because I really feel like for each person, it's completely different. I could say that it would be the same for every single realtor, but genuinely, it's not. The things that I fell into because of different circumstances. And I feel like every single person, every business owner, whether you're a realtor or whatever, you're going to fall into things that you probably didn't expect to because there was a need inside of your circle of clients or whatever the case may be, and it's going to be different for every single person. That's why in these calls, we try to bring on as many people as we can, all these different opportunities for monetizing, because you never know where you might fall into monetizing something. So if you had any advice for realtors on here, and we also end up having investors that watch, we have lenders that watch, any advice for people about vertical stacking and how to monetize their businesses, careers to the absolute maximum they can, I guess.
Yeah, so I think, kind of everyone in our world, right? So whether it be a title attorney, whether it be a lender, a banker, a real estate agent, we're all sales based. So understanding that every conversation is an opportunity for a sale, right? Whether that be selling a product, whether that be selling a service, whether that be just offering to help someone, and so. I feel like real estate agents have a really cool starting point because your primary job is sales based, right? And so going into every conversation, kind of understanding that, knowing your strengths and weaknesses, and then figuring out what value you can provide to someone else first before asking them to provide value to you. Right. And so my thing has always been like when I approach a realtor for, to start sending me business, it's not like, hey, Teresa, start sending me some business. Right. It's more of like, hey, Teresa, how can I help you sell more houses and get to the table quicker? Right. And in turn, if I do that very well, naturally and organically, I'm going to get your deals. And so having that mindset going into things, and then just being really comfortable with what your ecosystem is. Like, what are the systems that you created that you can then use to provide value to other people? So providing value to other people turns into money, right? It turns into income, right? And so I think a lot of people have this idea of like, I need to go seek out value to be given to me, right? Money, and don't think about, well, what am I going to give that person in return? I need to give them something of value, one, to make them trust me, two, to make them comfortable with me, and then to create a long lasting relationship. So, like, I don't want my relationship with a realtor to be this one deal. I don't want you to send me one deal. I want you to send me deals for the next 15 years that you're in the game, right? And the way that we do that is we build a relationship, we build trust, and I offer things of value to you. And so I think like the starting point is like having a mindset like that when you go into trying to figure out how can I monetize different aspects of my business. So where in my system that I created can I provide value to other people? And I think that's the best approach.
And there's something that you said earlier that I definitely agree with. You said that you started doing the property management for yourself, and then people
Right.
started asking you to do it for them. That's exactly how I got into short-term property management. I never got into that game ever expecting to manage for anyone else. I did it for us. For my family, I was building something for me because I wanted some residual income that could be time and location independent. But then when people saw me doing it and they saw that I was helping other people, I guess, because I was going to like the city council meetings and speaking up for other short-term rental men. So that's how people started to see me, and it was not intentional. I was just there to help and there to help myself as well. But the more people saw me, the more they started asking me to manage for them. In the beginning, I didn't have any interest in managing for other people because I didn't want to be micromanaged and I just wanted
Yeah.
to do it for myself. But then the people that really needed help the most were the people that were too busy to even they didn't have time to micromanage me. They didn't even have time to manage their own stuff. So that's kind of where it started. And then I realized the value in the management side of it was even bigger than doing it on my own. And then it just kind of it continues to grow. I get calls every day, people needing help. So I think there's a lot of value in that too. When
Yep.
people see you doing stuff like that, they want the help as well. That's how I ended up in that place.
Right. And I think you personally do a good job of like being very confident in the systems that you created. You know that they work and you stand by those systems and you know the value of those systems. And I think having that like air of confidence helps you sell. And so like you can't kind of go in half cocked like, yeah, I'm pretty good at short-term rental. Like you like, no, I'm the best in Acadiana at short-term rental management, right? And like having that confidence and knowing that. And I think just standing by that, I think a lot that resonates with people a lot.
I appreciate that very much. But yeah,
Yep.
and so now I'm trying to teach it to other people because I've gotten to a point where I am maxed out. I have so many people calling me all the time that I'm like, okay, I've got to create more people to help me do this. So that's why we decided to do the short-term rental management course, which is going to be coming up this Thursday, which I'm very excited about because I think it's going to be pretty life-changing for a lot of people that are realtors that maybe want a little bit more than just, grinding for the commission every day because that's not very consistent. And so that's why I
Right.
like it so much myself. But yeah. So
You
I
know what
don't
that's
know if
called,
any
Teresa?
what.
That's called vertical stacking. You have vertically stacked going from a real estate agent to managing short-term rentals to yourself to managing short-term rentals for someone else to now teaching how to manage short-term rentals. So the same system, the same overhead, the same cost, the same everything, you've now created four different revenue streams with.
Yes. And that is the thing that I want everybody to be able to do for themselves too, because real estate's crazy. I mean, it's never the same. And it's not just the market. Yes, like the market is kind of crappy right now. It depends on how you look at it. Interest rates are high. We're getting sued left and right. Like there's always some crap going on in the real estate industry. So I just kind of feel like I have to have this like little side something that's, feeding my income consistently just in case, a deal falls apart or, who knows what might happen in the industry. I feel like it gets a little more confusing and harder every day for agents. So I definitely recommend that everybody try to do more than just sell. Because I mean, eventually we have to retire, right? We
Yeah,
can't do
hopefully.
that grind. I mean, and it's not something that you can just stop. With real estate commissions, if you're not marketing every day, if you're not building your clientele, if you're not showing houses, then the income stops. So what happens whenever you get too old to do that? You have to have other options, and there's just not that much out there that, or at least that people are talking about. There's plenty out there, but realtors and real estate companies aren't talking about those things most of the time. They're just talking about, sell more. And it's like, okay, but what happens when we get sick? What happens when we get tired? What happens whenever we just simply can't, don't want to do it anymore because we're exhausted and we need a break? And so I love the idea of vertical stacking. And I really am glad that you came to talk to people about some different perspectives, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, the goal, all of our goals are the same, is to provide a better lives for ourselves and our families, right? That's why we do this. That's why we work hard. And, coming from kind of a lower middle class family, like, the motivation has always been to just give my boys a little bit better start than I had. So I want them to start a little bit further down the track than I got to start, so that they can go further down the track than I get to in my life. And so, um, That's why we all do this. And so it's all about just finding ways to leverage your time, your resources, your knowledge, your systems to create as many revenue streams as possible.
Awesome. I appreciate it. I really would like to hear from other people. Does anybody have any questions for Chris? Since, we have this amazing mind right here in front of you, ready to answer questions.
I guess I have a question. I'm Matt. I'm just curious about your time management because I have a lot of stuff going on too, and I'm a new realtor, and I'm trying to get it all managed. So your time management. I know she asked what does your day look like, but what I don't know. Do you have any tips for time management when you have a lot of stuff going on like that?
Yeah, so I think under one, giving yourself grace and understanding that you have a lot going on and that you can't make everything happen all the time right when everyone wants it. I think so you start with giving yourself the grace and understanding that like this is just what it is. And then personally, I kind of live and die by my Outlook calendar. So every company, every personal appointment, everyone in my life knows that if it's not on that Outlook calendar, Chris is not showing up because Chris has forgotten about it. And so like that's my weakness. Like I can't remember everything. So like and like I have set rules. So like if I'm doing so we do a lot of mobile closings, right? So closings outside of my office. They know that a closing only takes me 20 to 30 minutes to do the closing, but they have to give me an hour to travel, right? So it's an hour block. And so just knowing like that's how long it's gonna take me. You have to block me off like that. The girls in the office, they all know that they can't double stack me. So like those are the little things that I do to be able to manage my time as best as I can. And even with all of that, I still don't get to everything that I'm supposed to get to. And that was really, really hard for me at the beginning because I'm very goal oriented. I'm very like outcome oriented. So like I want to get to the outcome. I want to get to the finish line as fast as possible. And sometimes that's just not a realistic outcome. And so I would say, give yourself grace knowing that, and then just set up, have some kind of written electronic calendar and manage it the way, however your brain works, however your time works, and just live and die by that one thing.
Can I add to that too, just because I have struggled with time management for a long time? I say I struggle. I think I do a pretty darn good job compared to a lot of people. But there was a tip that one coach taught me a long time ago because I would get so caught up in not getting the entire to-do list done every day. It would drive me mad and I could not let it go. And he's like, you just have to let it go. I'm like, well, I can't just let it go. And it would drive me crazy that he would say that because I would be like, okay, maybe you're just not a woman. I don't know, but that doesn't work for me. But what he taught me was start the day with a goal, or like even if you have two parts of the day because you're working on two different projects, don't make it about the to-do list. Make it about the goal. So if the goal is to get one new client today, it doesn't really matter what you're doing, like what the to-do list is. If you get the client, you got the goal. And that's what matters more than the giant checklist. Because like if I showed you guys this is a light checklist for today, and it's only because I decided to split it up into 2 days so that wouldn't lose my mind, because usually I have about a week's worth of stuff on my list every day, and it drives me bonkers when I can't get it all done. So instead of driving myself insane, I started putting a goal at the top, of whatever that goal is, that's the goal. Forget the to do list and focus on that. I hope that helps a little bit because it helped me a ton.
Okay, I have a question for Chris. Chris, what would you say is the or how quickly should we go from like two properties to five properties to 10 properties? And should we be doing a mix of short term, long term? Because I have like three long term, but I picked up one that I maybe want to turn into a short term.
Yep. Yeah, so I don't think that there's
And
a set.
everyone
Oh, sorry,
that
go ahead.
sees us, sorry for interrupting you, everyone in my family, like normal people are like, you're crazy. Like,
Oh
don't spend
yeah, you
another
get that a
dollar.
lot.
Don't get another property.
Yeah,
And I'm not interested in them necessarily cash flowing. I'm in
yeah,
a spot where I don't need the cash flow. I just want to pick up properties.
right. Yeah, and I've been in a very similar spot for a long time. And so well, get used to the you're crazy because if people are not in this game, they think we're all crazy, right? When I tell people that, even in my family that I have 436 properties, they're like, you are insane, right? But it's not insanity to me. It makes perfect sense to me. It's a tangible asset that I can touch, I can feel, and I can watch it grow. I can literally calculate its growth, right? And so I don't think that there's a set timeline to go from 2 to 5 to 10 to 20. I think that is solely dependent upon you and what systems you built, what systems you have in place, and your comfort levels, right? Um, and so that to kind of answer that question, I don't think there's also a set rule for long term versus short term. I think that is properties dependent. I think that there's certain properties that are meant to be wholesaled. There's some properties that are meant to be flipped. There's some properties that are meant to be long term, and there's some properties that are meant to be short term. And so it's dependent on where do you think that you can maximize the income and value in that property, whether that be long term or short term, right? And so I think that you've just kind of got to develop your comfort level and your systems, and then be true to those comfort levels and systems. Don't get outside of those systems once you develop them and you know that they work, right? Because when we get in trouble is when we kind of get outside of those systems.
Get used to people telling you you're crazy too. Like, actually, whenever
Oh
people
yeah.
tell me I'm crazy, like that is a win for me because I know I'm doing something right. Because if you're doing the things that everybody else is doing, then you're just going to be just as good as everybody else. So definitely don't take advice from people that you don't want to be like or that aren't at the level that you are. I don't even know what people think of me at this point, and I literally do not care. But anytime that somebody tells me that I'm insane, or if somebody like dips out of my circle, then I know that I'm doing something right because that means that I'm focused on the goal and I'm not giving up and I'm not giving in to what other people are telling me. There's a few people in this industry, very big names of people in this industry that told me when I was doing the short-term rental management stuff in the beginning to stop piddling around with that stuff. Like it's a waste of time. And if I look back now, when I see that the revenue that this company is bringing in is like $50,000 a month on average, and somebody told me to stop playing around with that, and somebody big, you really have to just like you cannot listen to other people, even whenever they sometimes might be somebody that you think you should listen to. It's not always the right thing to listen to. Just make everybody think you're crazy, and you'll win.
Yeah, and then that's 100%, and that's kind of what I mean. Like you've got to figure out what your comfort level is, who you want to be, what you want to be, and just be true to that. And it's a whole lot easier said than done, because we feel the pressures for you guys, from your brokers, from title attorneys, from other realtors, that are selling a bunch. Like, oh man, why are they and I'm not? But you've just got to kind of figure out who you are and be true to that, and be confident and comfortable in that. And Teresa's right. If you do what everyone else does, then you'll just have the same result as everyone else.
Gotcha. And so let's say someone who has 5 rental properties. I can manage 2 because they're next to my house. Should I put the other 3 into a property manager or should I just throw them all in with a property manager?
So I'm always a fan of kind of keeping all of it together, right? So if you're going to manage two, there's not a huge difference in managing two and then managing five, right? There's not a huge difference in managing two and managing 10, probably, to be completely honest with you. I think when you get to 15, 20, that's when it's going to start to get out of hand. But if you're thinking about moving three, you might as well just move five, right? Because you can't kind of do it halfway. You're either going to manage your own properties or you're not going to manage. I think when you have kind of two captains steering the boat on your portfolio, it's going to get frustrating for you, in my experience.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I'm very proud of you, by the way, Colby. He's so young and he's starting so young, getting his portfolio going. He's
Oh yeah,
really
Kobe's a hustler,
kicking ass.
man.
I know. I love it. I
Yeah,
love it so
yeah.
much. I was not that responsible at that age. Does anybody else have any questions for Chris while we have him here?
I do. Oh, I don't like my whole face. Do you have any advice for sorry, for someone starting out in short-term rentals? No. Long-term rentals.
Long-term
Sorry.
rentals, I'm about to say no, I don't do it. Find you a good like go to Teresa, let her manage them. That would be my advice. No, for long-term rentals, I mean know your market. So get very, very familiar with your market and wherever you want the rental to be. I mean look everything. Know the school district, know the crime rate, know the rentability, know how many rent houses are in that area, know what the going rate is, right? Know the difference between a 3-bed, 1-bath rent and a 3-bed, 2-bath rent. Because a lot of people don't think about that, but that could be $200 a month by having that extra bed, the bedroom, bathroom, right? So I think that's first part. I think second part is then figuring out and learning how you're going to finance it. Are you going to do cash? Are you going to do normal local bank? Are you going to do a private financing, hard money loan? And then learn everything there is to learn about that financing structure, right? Like I said earlier, every bank has a different lending policy. Every lender, loan officer within a bank has a different lending policy. So understanding as many of those policies as you can, and then figuring out what loan officers kind of believe in you, kind of trust you, that you can work with, because the first 5 are going to be the hardest. That's the ones that are going to get scrutinized the most. That's the one that the lender's going to be like, the lender's going to be the first one to call you crazy. But are you sure you want to do rent houses? You want them calling you on Sunday telling you the toilet's clogged? And that's just not the reality of the game, right? So just be prepared for that. But if you go in knowing your numbers, knowing your market, and being extremely confident in your deal, there's a lender that will tell you yes. I promise.
Okay, so I plan on calling Bank of Sunset here in a little bit. Is
Uh-huh.
there any specific questions I need to ask?
So going off the bat, so I'm going to pretend like I don't know Bank of Sunset's lending limits and all of that because I do. But so the questions I would ask would be, what's your single borrower lending limit? What's your amortization options, whether it be a 15-year AM, 20-year AM, 25 or 30-year AM? What's your going interest rate for 1 to 4 single families? And then what's your loan to value? Is it 75%, 80%, 85%? And is that based on current appraised value? Or if it's a fixer upper, can it be based on after repair value? So those 5 or 6 questions are the same ones I would ask every bank that you go to. And then even if you're like convinced that Bank of Sunset's the best option for you, since you have a deal, like a real deal to analyze with the banker, I would call all of them. I'd call American, I'd call Catalyst, I'd call FNBJ, I'd call First National Bank of Louisiana, I'd call Home Bank, I'd call everybody and ask them the same questions, and then just build you a little spreadsheet of all the bank's answers because every deal isn't going to fit into the same bank's like setup, right? Some deals will fit better with this bank, some deals will fit better with that bank. This is a turnkey property. This is a fixer-up property. I know that this bank likes fixer-uppers. I know that this bank doesn't like fixer-uppers and wants turnkey, right? And so, but it's hard to get banks to answer you sometimes when you don't have a real deal for them to look at. Yep. Welcome.
I know I would recommend Community First Bank.
Yeah, that's another good one.
Denise is asking if you can repeat those 5 items.
Whew, okay, let's go. All right, so I would ask a bank what their single borrower lending limit is. I would ask the bank what their amortization options are, whether the commercial loan is going to be at a 15-year, 20-year, or 30-year AM. Amortization, AM is amortization. I would ask what their going interest rates are for 1 to 4 single families. And then I would ask what their loan to value is. Is it 75, 80, or 85%? And is that based on the current appraised value or the current purchase price, or is that going to be can that be based on after repair value, right? Because if you have a fixer upper, sometimes you can get a lot of your repairs financed in because there are some banks that allow you to do after repair value. And so that would be my baseline questions.
I know that we have a couple people hiding on this call. Are they still there? I know Daniel was there, but he must have just gotten off. I was hoping that Daniel would try to ask a very difficult question, but I think he
I was
probably,
waiting for it. I was
I
waiting for
know. He
it.
didn't even put his camera on.
I might
I
be because I
should.
stole his webcam.
Oh yeah, that could be it. Oh, I think that was everybody. I think everybody kind of asked questions, except for Daniel. So I will pick on him later for that. But man, this was super informative, like really, and just being able to ask those questions, you have no idea. Most people cannot, we don't have access to people to ask those types of questions too, most of the time. It's like, who do you ask? Most people are super busy, but I also know that you specialize in that as an attorney. So people can come to you for these questions all the time, right?
1,000%. This is one of my favorite things to do is to have this conversation with people and to tell people the things that have worked for me and the things that I try to avoid. I'm happy to answer questions for anyone anytime.
So if they want to get in touch with you to pick your brain or to get some investment advice or whatever legal advice they need, where would they contact you?
So the best contact is going to be my email. It's chris@maisontitle.com. That's MAISON title.com. You can email anytime of the day, any day of the week. I'm generally pretty quick to answer my emails. So yeah, feel free to reach
And I
out.
don't think he sleeps either, so you might be able to
You know,
catch
I got
him
a
at
really weird sleeping pattern.
I do too. So you can ask Kevin. I don't know if he's still on the call, but I was like, I slept till 3:30 this morning. He's like, nice.
That's
And
a
I'm like,
good one. That's
it's
a good night.
not
Yeah.
nice. But yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. It must just be the who knows. I don't know. But if anybody does have any advice on sleeping or can teach lessons, that'd be great because that is one thing I don't do either. But
Right.
Chris,
Same.
thank you so much for hopping on here. It really was so informative, more than you know. It's so appreciated. And now I think you have a whole bunch of new raving fans that'll probably be getting in touch with you for more questions.
Awesome. I appreciate you, Teresa.
Thank you. You guys have an amazing day.
All right. Y'all as well.